Hello, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the last session of the 2018 Muslim Women in Sport Network Summit. I'm so excited for this final session where we'll be talking about research and its role in influencing policy and program design at a grassroots level and a regional level. I'm Indira Kalyo, and we will be hearing today from Shaheen Bi as she talks about her research and how it has affected governmental policy change. For our viewers, please don't forget to join the talk with hashtag MWSN Summit 2018. And we would love to have a Q&A at the end of this amazing discussion. So Shaheen, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about your research with us.
Hi, I'm Shaheen. I'm Head of Research at Sporting Equals. I'm going to talk a bit about the organisation, what the organisation does, just to start off with. Sporting Equals is a not-for-profit charity based in the UK. Our mission is to make a sustainable difference to the inclusion of Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. We are a national partner of Sport England, and we work with sports providers, national governing bodies, leisure trusts, clubs, community and faith groups. Our work focuses around key outcomes which involve increasing participation in sport, identifying and showcasing talent, diversifying the sports sector, improving health and lifestyles, and building cohesive communities. We've done a lot of projects with the public and private sector and offer a number of services, including community brokerage, community engagement, research and insight into consumer markets, capacity building and workforce development. My role as Head of Research at Sporting Equals is to gather insight into ethnic diversity and underrepresentation in sport. I've been carrying out research for probably about 9 or 10 years now into sort of audiences, and particularly around Muslim women and the challenges and barriers some Muslim women face in the UK in terms of access to opportunity and greater inclusion and engagement. I've done a lot of work with Muslim women, conducting focus groups, doing qualitative and quantitative sort of research, developing understanding and learning, just to enable sports providers to be a bit more receptive to the needs of Muslim women, particularly around the cultural sensitivities. And today I've been asked by the Muslim Women in Sport Network to talk about innovation and best practice and how that translates into practical grassroots level projects that make a difference. So I've got 2 projects that I'm going to be talking about today, particularly around sort of Muslim women and the impact that these projects have made at the grassroots level. The first project was a project that we did in partnership with the FA and London Sport to get more Asian women involved in coaching. There was a specific focus on Muslim women, and what we are trying to do is create greater pathways for Muslim women to try and get engaged in coaching, because a lot of the work and insight that I've been carrying out over the past sort of 5 to 6 years was telling us there's a strong latent demand and Muslim women want to engage at sport at a grassroots level, but service providers are not receptive to local need. They're not sensitive to the needs of a lot of women, not just Muslim women, I think Black and Asian minority ethnic women sort of generally, and there's a clear need for more female coaches to address the gap in terms of facilitation of sports activity. What we found was that governing bodies do want to offer more women-only sessions and women-only engagement, but they were finding it very difficult to plug the gap in terms of finding female instructors and coaches. So this was a project trying to address that gap, try and plug the gap, work with sports providers and create a talent pool of women who can provide those coaching opportunities, and then that greater engagement and participation within sport, where they could, as coaches, go in the community and facilitate local provision and engagement in sport. So what we did was a lot of consultation with Muslim women to find out what the barriers to getting more Muslim women into coaching, and some key considerations that I'm going to sort of just touch on that people might want to consider if they want to sort of look at this, because I think it's a very, very important area to address to help that greater and wider engagement. The biggest issue we found was that the women lacked a lot of confidence and needed a bit of support in engaging. The coaching structures were not inclusive. There was a need for more specific female-only provision, but there was additional challenges around timing, location, transport. And one of the ways we addressed that was engagement with the local mosques to try and get community leaders and activators from within the community who can engage these women, because what we found was there's the demand there, but there needs to be somebody who's trusted within the community who can engage with the community and provide advice information as to the benefits of what we were trying to do. So we found a couple of people from within the mosques who are quite active and quite engaged in a volunteer capacity, and we had them as enablers to help facilitate engagement and get women onto the course. And then issues around time and location, transport. We put the course on in a venue that was most accessible for the local women, and giving them sort of pathways and sort of routes into coaching. And then what we found is, in terms of the impact, there was a huge social impact. It wasn't just that we were facilitating women to get qualified as coaches. We had, as a result of those women becoming coaches, we increased local provision in a number of different sports, from cycling to football to walking groups. We help raise physical activity levels. So, the demand is there from the local community, but the offer's just on receptive cultural need. Having women from within the community who understand the cultural sensitivities of the women they're trying to engage has a massive impact, and a positive impact in terms of raising physical activity levels and getting women engaged in sport. And also routes for women who want to play competitively, because what we did was we engaged with sports clubs and had a bit of a transition through to those girls that wanted to play competitively, to sort of trying to plug them in with structures that can help support them. They would then go in and get further support and advice, and signpost into other opportunities, because it's important that once women are engaged, that's the initial baseline. There's then another level in terms of trying to get a lot of women, whether it's into competitive sport or whether it's sort of playing recreationally or fun, or whether it's just facilitating activities as a volunteer through community-based provision, that had a wider impact. So, overall, I think have a targeted initiative like this, it was very important, because what we found was there's definitely a latent demand there, but there's just services just don't have the capacity and the infrastructure and the female instructors to be able to help engage women at a local level in sport and physical activity provision. So that's the first project that we sort of worked on. As I said, demonstrated quite a huge impact, and we've got some baseline information about that project if anyone wants to get in touch with myself. The second project I'm going to talk about, which is quite close to my heart, is the Age UK project. Now, this was called the Fit as a Fiddle project, and I've worked with Age UK on this for probably about 6 or 7 years now, and is very interesting in that the older women tend to get forgotten about. We concentrate quite a lot around the younger women, and I think the younger women have probably got a lot more access and opportunities, whether it's through schools, through clubs, through after-school provision. There is still some cultural barriers, and a lot of sports providers are seeking to address that. But I think the older cohort group tend to get sort of forgotten. So we went in partnership with Age UK through the Fit as a Fiddle, and Sport and Equals delivered the Faith and Community Strand, which I headed up at a national level. And we work with about 46 organisations nationally to try and support older women over the age of 55 to get involved in sport and physical activity. The project itself had three key outcomes. It was about improving physical activity levels, meet the government physical activity guidelines, healthy eating, looking at cultural diets and how people were looking at their sort of cultures in terms of reducing fats and sugars and other sort of sugary food like sweetmeats, and addressing the sort of the diet issue alongside the mental stimulation, getting particularly women outside into the social circles. So it's not just outside the home, developing friendship groups and activities to enable greater social action, which help facilitate greater mental well-being. So we did initial baseline consultation to find out, okay, well, what do these older women want? What are the challenges? What are the barriers? And how do we tailor activities to be more receptive to local need? And what we found was a lot of these women were quite isolated. There was definitely a latent demand in terms of these women wanted to engage, but they just didn't have the support structures to enable them to do that. So through the project, we trained up intergenerational volunteers. So the volunteers were from different age groups, probably from about 18 plus through to older volunteers up to sort of age of 65. And those volunteers came onto the training, which our organisation Sport and Equals developed. And that training was around the key strands around raising physical activity levels, motivating older people, looking at cultural diet, stimulating well-being, providing general advice, information and guidance, and also the volunteers acted in the capacity of a facilitator. So what happened after the training was each volunteer was given a target of supporting 4 older people each within the community. So once training had finished, they would either provide one-to-one support with that older person through sort of dialogue. Okay, well, what does this older person want to do? Do they want to go swimming, or do they want to take part in a walking group? Or if they had limited mobility, try and get them involved in an exercise class or a chair-based exercise session. What was, we're taking into consideration that some older people do have health issues, and as a result of that, their mobility might be limited. We've provided a support structure for the volunteers to provide that one-to-one support, and then and also activity-based support. So we ran a number of walking groups, a number of sessions. It's quite interesting because the older women wanted to get in activities like tennis and badminton. It wasn't for the one that they didn't want to get involved. It was that there was lack of confidence in them sort of engaging with the wider community and the opportunities that were around them. And the volunteers provided that facilitation role. So one of the volunteers, for example, spoke to the swimming service provider and said, you have to run, these women want a women-only session. So they managed to run, maybe once a week, an older women-only session. A number of walking groups. Another example around the mental well-being was allotment project. One of the older persons had allotment project. They wanted to grow vegetables. So the volunteer helped them look at through the internet around how to grow vegetables. So they were learning skills in between the 12. So this isn't about physical activities, looking at the wider challenges some of the older people were and we wanted to do things with them that they felt were important for them. So it's not always about, okay, facilitating physical activity, which is fine, but also around how we can help, how those volunteers can help them engage in wider opportunities around them, so which was quite interesting. So the volunteers provided a bit of an enabling role, and and this was about behaviour change, behaviour change linked to our project, because that was all overall aim. We wanted to move from the older people leading quite sedentary lifestyles to try and be more physically active. Whether it was even advice around catching the bus and walking rather than getting a lift to the mosque, or dropping off the kids, doing the daughter's school run opposed to get the daughter-in-law to do it or the daughter to do it. Just something that will facilitate them and get them out of the house. Because what we found was with the older women, their social network, as you get older, your social networks tend to shrink, because the daughter-in-law comes in, she takes over, and then the other issue we found with the South Asian communities is that old age is seen as a period of rest, and kids are saying, "Oh, mom, it's your time to take it easy, put your feet up." But it was having a detrimental effect on the older women, because then they weren't being physically active. They were then having these mental health problems around depression, anxiety, because they weren't getting out. They weren't, involved in any physical activity. As a result, that had other implications around their health. And then they were going to the doctors for these magic pills. So, we were trying to sort of embed a culture of behavior change in those older people. And we've got information on our website, the full reports on there. But it was a brilliant project for me. I just thought, older people are often forgotten about, and it's important we start engaging our older communities and start giving them the opportunities that other people have. Through facility, whether it's through volunteers or even family and friends can help them involved in physical activity, and get them to support them to do things like whether it's swimming or walking groups. So that was important around the sort of behavior change sort of element around that. Also, it's important to educate the community about the importance of physical activity, because linked to that, we then I think it was 2 years ago, we work with Public Health England as an offshoot to do a dementia risk reduction project, also linked to the Fit as a Fiddle, and it was quite interesting because a lot of learning and best practice came out of that, because dementia is also an issue that's affecting a lot of communities, and people don't understand dementia, but the preventative measures are around raising physical activity levels, getting people to engage more in physical activity, to have that mental stimulation, which has an impact, long-term preventative impact on illnesses like dementia. So it's important we start considering things like that. But there's a lot of learning and good practice from these types of projects. So that's 2 examples of some really great work that I've done on behalf of Sport and Equals. A lot of learning on that, and I think it's important for platforms like this for people to share learning and best practice, and enabling opportunities, particularly for Muslim women, because there's a lot of challenges that Muslim women sort of face, and getting people to change approaches and change how things are actually delivered on the ground, looking at different ways of doing things. And also another important point through my research is sports providers in particular tend to put everybody into one box, one size fits all. And I think there needs to be greater thinking around segmenting audiences and really thinking about, okay, well, are you working with the Somali community? Are you working with the Pakistani community? Are you working with the Yemeni community? They are very, very different cultures, and how people engage with things and how people interact with what is outside and access, and some of the challenges that they face. There are subtle differences, and I think sports providers need to acknowledge that. There's probably general things that you can do to try and address that underrepresentation. I think there needs to be different approaches for different groups, and it goes back down to basics around consult with local communities. That's your starting point in terms of that wider engagement. Find out what people want to do, and then try and use opportunities, whether it's through the mosques, to the temples, to the gurdwaras, use them as a facilitation to try and get that initial engagement, get the interest, and then that facilitate that through to local provision. And then, that's sort of the starting point. And there's lots of learning on the Sport and Equals website. I'll be involved in another project in the next sort of year around community cohesion. We've just secured a project with Spirit 2012 around community cohesion in cricket. We're also working with the Tennis Foundation to run tennis serve sites in our key cities. And also been working with the English Federation of Disability Sport to promote the Get Out, Get Active project. That's also around getting disabled and non-disabled communities involved in sport and physical activity, because I think that's another audience that tends to forgotten about. Disabled people are quite cushioned and quite isolated within their communities, and I think there needs to be a lot more work done and a lot more research done to try and understand how we can support people who have got impairments and long-term illnesses and try and get them more sort of engaged in sport and physical activity. So there's a lot of work that I'll be doing in the next few months in those areas moving forward. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any more questions about those projects and general research.
Really, truly amazing, Shaheen. Everything that you've shared with us, I feel like 30 minutes is not even nearly enough to share all your amazing research. So thank you so much for sharing. We do have some questions, Q&As coming in. This is the first one has 2 parts to it. You spoke about volunteers in your second project. Question that came in, it's essentially was the community of volunteers a specific background? Were they South Asian, were they Black Asian? And the second part to that question was anybody interested to volunteer? Were they able to volunteer, and how did you train them?
Right. The volunteers were from different backgrounds. We didn't restrict them because we think it's important that there's a diversity of volunteers that are supporting older people, because people from different backgrounds bring different things. They might be more plugged into what's happening locally. It's not necessarily that your volunteers have to be from within the same community, although it does help around the cultural sensitivities, but we kept it very broad, and we did think it was quite good, because then what we had was a mixture of volunteers from different backgrounds putting on activities, whether it was group-based activities or individual one-to-one, so they supported each other around supporting the older people. The training was a specific package we delivered for the program. We had a period of research where we consulted the community, and we had a tailor-made training package for the Fit as a Fiddle that we've we still run that project where people want training to support volunteers to work with older people. We do charge for that, but there is a training package that is available, but we use it as a standard model to sort of move forward on with other organisations who want to do similar projects or similar approaches like we've done in the past.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the second question is, do you share the data results that you have, like such as an increase in health or the results that you're finding? That's part one of the second question. And also, are you able to share that with the community members, especially if you received any kind of resistance from those community members within your research?
Yes, there was with Fit as a Fiddle. It wasn't just Sport and Equals. There was 4 or 5 other national partners. So they commissioned an organisation called Ecores, and Ecores did a massive monitoring evaluation on the actual results and the findings and the impact. Ours was just one strand. What we did was a smaller internal evaluation, and the findings are on our website in terms of the actual reporting. But the queries was the broader evaluation. The way it sort of worked was we did a baseline measure at the beginning, and then at the end of the actual training, and then a couple of months sort of follow up. The slight problem we did have is volunteers were coming in and out of the project, so it was so the sample size wasn't huge, but there is some sort of interested findings in terms of impact analysis in those reports.
Okay, very, very interesting. And we just have time for one more question that has come in. Do you or your organization provide those trainings to sporting organizations who want to work with various communities, such as to learn of cultural differences and know how to touch those communities?
Yes, we do. We offer a broad range of training packages. I mean, we recently doing some work with London Sport around cultural awareness training. It's, as I said, there's different audiences, and you can't put the training into one box. What we do is we will work with the organisation and look at what the requirements are and develop a training based on their particular needs. It might be that we have off-the-shelf stuff that we can just sort of deliver, but they might want to focus on a specific area. So we've done a lot of, we've built up quite a lot of training materials. We do try to be more specific to that particular organization. So if they want to, for instance, engage with Muslim women, we've got cultural awareness training, we've got training around different faiths, we've got training around gender and working with females. We've also done a bit of a segmentation tool with Sport England around looking at the audiences in a bit more detail. So looking at just Muslim women, Muslim Pakistani women, looking at Somali women. We started off that segmentation of 16 to 24-year-olds. It's linked to a training program, which we are evolving, we're expanding as we're growing as an organisation. But it's taken a while because it's quite intensive work. It's not an easy thing to try and break it down at that micro level, but it is interesting to see the cultural and the slight differences that are coming through from different audience groups.
Wonderful, wonderful. Really, thank you so much for sharing your work and projects with us, especially the Fit and Fettle, helping the elderly. This is something that I also am interested in, as my research for my master's was along the lines of women in coaching, and similar research was found in America, and I think globally if we looked into it. Now I'm currently in Saudi Arabia, and honestly, I think if we had research here that you're doing there in the UK, it would be so beneficial to the community here. So I would love to continue this discussion with you, even personally. And to all of our viewers, we hope that you have enjoyed the last session of the Muslim Women in Sport Network 2018. We hope to continue the discussion. We hope to let Muslim women have their voice be heard. And with your support and with yours continuous involvement, we hope to change the narrative. And thank you so much, Shaheen, for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And to all our viewers, we hope you have a great night or morning wherever you guys are. And we'll talk to you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.